Hello everybody. Today I want to talk about Shinto Ryu. Actually, when in a historical record, when somebody mentions Shinto Ryu, it is actually three schools. Katori Shinto Ryu, Kashima Shinryu, and Kashima Shinto Ryu. These three has some common origins. There are different stories about this common origin in these three schools, and I will explain it now for you. The first one of them that was established was Kotori Shinto-ryo, and in a short period after that, Kashima Shinryo and Kashima Shinto-ryo was established. The common origin of them is something that is called solitude swordsmanship. You know, when there is a freedom, the martial arts will thrive. This freedom can be happen in different situations. For example, when the country is at civil war, everybody can take a weapon, go to war, or kill somebody without being persecuted. So he have the ability to experience many things. When it is a time of peace, you can only do that if you are working for the government. But there are some other places that will give you this freedom. One of them, at the older times, was a shrine because usually in the eastern countries they make shrines in the mountains. The mountain is a place that nobody walk around there, so the government don't know usually what is going on inside of those shrines. This was something in the ancient times. After some centuries, the government gradually realized that the people would invent martial arts in shrines, so they established some ways. They assigned some ninjas for investigating shrines, and this happened. Anyway, there was a shrine in the Kanto region named Kotori and another named Kashima. It was invented in the Kashima shrine. There was a priest in that shrine that invented a special way of swordmanship. There was a sword dance for praising the deity of that shrine. He invented a kata based on that. He taught this kata to seven priests, and it became the seventh swordmanship school of Kanto region. Anyway, this kind of swordmanship is called solitude swordmanship. It remained in Kashima Shrine, in both Kashima and Kotori Shrine, until the time of these three schools. It was around 600 years ago. First of all, I should explain about Kotori Shinto-ryu. Kotori Shinto-ryu was established by a person named Iizosa Choisai. He was a swordman and he was in employment of the Chiwa clan. He built a castle near a river in a strategic place, and around 100% were working for him. The Chiba clan fell. He was a spiritual person. He came to his retainers and said, I don't need any power, any wealth or such things, and I will divide this castle and the things inside of it between you, and I will go to Mushashogyo. He went to Mushashogyo and different things happened for him, and at the end he came to Kyoto. Kyoto was the capital of Japan, and he became employed by the 8th Ashikaga shogun. He then came back to his own city. He went to the Katori shrine and he remained there. He was trained until one day he was sleeping under a tree. He saw in his dream that the deity is like a child, a boy, and is sitting on the top of the tree. He had a densho. He put it on the abdomen of the Izasa and said, "If you read this and train according to this, you will always win." Izasa wake up and saw that the densho is on his abdomen. He took it, read it, and trained it for 1,000 days, and he became a master of swordsmanship. At the older times, the people wanted to find a student. The student should be faithful because he cannot achieve result from just the beginning. He should continue the way. At the ancient times, they would use such kind of stories to make the student believe them. So you can interpret it in this way. And you can say the actual thing was that he went to the priest and the priest taught him the solitude swordsmanship. Also, Isaso Choisai was the seventh headmaster of a school named Muso Jikiden Ryo Yawaragi. Muso Jikiden Ryo Yawaragi, which is a school of Jujutsu. So, by combining these three, the solitude swordsmanship, the Yawaragi, and his experience as the ruler of the castle, as the retainer of the shogun, and other experiences he had, he made a school and called it Katori Shinto Ryu. He called it Tenshin Shoden Katori Shinto Ryu. I don't know about Shinto, the term Shinto in here, but I know about Tenshin Shoden. It means something that was transmitted from the god by a book. It referred to that story that he read that Tensho and become a master. So, this is one school. The other one that was established after this was Kashima Shinryo. There was a man named Bizen no Kami. He was training in the Kashima Shrine, which is near Katori. And whenever it was possible, he would go to war and experience for himself. He was good with sword and spear, and he would resign in the shrine and would train for himself until one day that a man named Kunii came to that shrine. This man was a descendant of the priest who established the solitude swordsmanship. At that time, he was training a branch of Nenryu. Nenryu later evolved to Maniwa Nenryu, which still exists. It was an older form of it, and before the Maniwa Nenryu established, there was older forms, and he was training them. But he was not satisfied. So he came to the shrine to pray to the god of the shrine and to know what he should do in his training. He came and saw Bizen no Kami. They talked with each other and he recommended him with his own ideas about training. So, Bizen no Kami, based on solitude training, solitude swordsmanship, and their ideas of Kunii, he established a sword school, and also based on his own experience and a technique which is called Ichinotachi. I will explain this Ichinotachi in the history of Kashima Shinto. So, based on solitude swordsmanship, his own experiences, the ideas of Kunii, and Ichinotachi. Ichinotachi is common between Kashima Shinryo and Kashima Shinto-ryo, but it doesn't exist in Katori Shinto-ryo. Later, two line of this school was established. One was the Shihanke line, which was headed by Bizen no Kami, and the other was the Suke line, which was headed by Kunii. Bizen no Kami have been killed in a battle somewhere around 1512, I think, and but the both lines continue to this day. The other one is Kashima Shinto Ryu. Once there was a man named Tesuka Bokuden. He was from a warrior family. His family from the father's side was the long-time retainer of the ruler of that province. That province was called Kashima at the older times. Later it became Mito and then Ibaragi. But at first it was Kashima. Uh, the ruler of each part of Japan had a military counselor which was called Koro. The number of them was different in different times. For example, in one period it was 2%, it was another period it was 4%, it becomes 6% at a time, and at the Tokugawa period it again became 2%. Each governor had the right to have two karo at the time of Tokugawa. At the time of Tetsukaro Bokuden, it was four people. And his father was a karo for Kashima. His family developed a way for developed a military way so they can do their job for the Kashima clan. It was called Kashima Chukoryo, and it was a Sogobujutsu. So he learned this way from his father. Also, he was adopted by another man. That man was training Katori Shinto, and he learned Katori Shinto from him. I forget to mention something. The Bizen no Kami also was training Katori Shinto with Isaso Choisai himself. So it also affected Kashima Shinryo, and it also affected the Sukaro Bokuden, both of them. Anyway, the Sukaro Bokuden learned these two methods, and he went for Mushashogyo. He became a very famous warrior. He participated in 6 wars, and he participated in 203 duels, and he was always winner. He only became wounded 6 times by arrow, not by sword. It means that nobody couldn't defeat him or even wounded him in a close encounter. He was very good. Anyway, he came back to his city. He established a school similar to Kotori Shinto. They would teach anybody, and they wouldn't participate in any war. It was the same policy of Kotori Shinto, and he chose one of his sons for as his successor. He actually established two schools, one Kashima Shinto and one Bokuden Ryo. Bokuden Ryo was based on his training in Katori Shinto and his experiences in duels, and Kashima Shinto was based on Kashima Chukoryo and his experience in the battles. Uh, but the name of the school, I can say something about that, is a phrase, the abbreviation of a phrase. The Kashima Shinto Ryo. This Shinto, it doesn't mean the religion of Shinto. It is the abbreviation of a phrase which means somebody who always has a fresh mind, has a young mind or new mind, Shin means new, is always the winner. The abbreviation of this phrase will become Shinto. So means it means the school of winning through fresh mind of Kashima. It means that. So as you can see, all of them has at least one common origin, which is solitude swordsmanship. Now, something else that I wanted to explain was about Ichinotachi. And there was a samurai around 100 years before these guys who established such a way named Ichinotachi. It was a technique for killing the enemy in only one strike. This idea is something sacred now, and it handed down from generation to generation, and Tesukahara Bokuden was a descendant of this guy. So he knew this way from in this way because he was a descendant of him. But I don't know how Bizen no Kami also knew this way. But he also incorporated in his school. These three are together called Shinto Ryu. They later become very famous and become the source of many other schools. Many famous schools were established based on them. For example, Jigen Ryo and Negishi Ryo and Gonritsu Ryo were established based on Katori Shinto Ryo. I don't know about Kashima Shinryo at the older times, but from Kashima Shinryo, Tennen Shinryo was established, which was the school of Shinsengumi. In the modern era also, some schools were emerged from these three schools. From Katori Shinryo, a Shuriken Jutsu school named Meifushinka Ryo was established, and from Kashima Shinryo, a school named Konoryo was established.